Welcome back to The Real Story. If you have not, be sure and click the button down below to subscribe and to follow. Guess what I'm going to talk about today? Well, I'm going to talk about the kiss cam at the Coldplay concert. Now, listen, this has spread like wildfire, right? There's been a huge range of reactions to this, all up and down the continuum. First, they've looked at this and thought, oh my God, that is absolutely hilarious. I cannot believe, A, they got caught, B, they reacted so badly. How funny is that? Then the next thing everybody thought was, what a scumbag. Oh my God. And then when people started thinking about the impact on the family members at home, the spouses, the married people, they thought, that's horrible. How painful that is. And then it got to what a disgrace it is that America has some serious issues when we take something like marital infidelity and it turns into the biggest punchline, the biggest joke you can imagine. So here's the real story on the Coldplay kiss cam that is blown up on social media. If you've missed it, you've been under a rock. Here are the headlines. New video of moment astronomer CEO Andy Byron is busted cuddling HR chief mistress on Coldplay kiss cam. Here are all the best reenactments of the Coldplay kiss cam incident. Astronomer CEO resigns after Coldplay kiss cam scandal. All right, so what happened? So there's a Coldplay concert at Gillette Stadium near Boston, home of the New England Patriots, and a kiss cam. If you don't know what that is, when they're having a break or something, they scan the crowd with a heart template over it, and they'll zoom in on a couple. And when they zoom in on them, they're supposed to give each other a big kiss, and everybody laughs and applauds and all that. Well, the kiss cam zoomed in on now former astronomer CEO Andy Byron embracing the company's chief people officer, Kristen Cabot. And I guess chief people officer is the fancy name for head of HR. So anyway, Andy, for the record, is married to a woman. I'm not going to say her name. She's had enough humiliation. But not the woman that he's in the little heart of the kiss cam with, Kristen Cabot. Now, when Byron and Cabot realized that their date, in which they were in a very intimate embrace, was being broadcast to the entire arena, they panicked. She put her hands over her face, and he dove for under the seats out of the camera's view. A little late, and so Chris Martin on stage says, whoa.
Either they're having an affair or they're just very shy.
The whole thing immediately goes viral. Of course, everybody said if they had just stood there and waved, it probably wouldn't have gone viral. I might have been a problem, but a few hours later, front page of the New York Post, Dumbotron, 2 days later, Byron resigns. So, look, clearly he's a smart guy. So you got to be wondering, what was he thinking? What was she thinking? I don't know how many people you can seat at a concert like that, but it's probably 20,000 people. Now, these aren't famous people in terms of you recognize them on the street, but this is a big crowd of local people. What are the chances that nobody you know is going to see you at this concert? So you got to be thinking, do they want to get caught? Are they so narcissistic that they think they're invisible or bulletproof? This doesn't even get to whether they should have been there or not. It gets to why would they be there? And we'll get back to that in a minute. But he's been made CEO of Astronomer, which, if you're wondering, this is a platform specializing in Apache Airflow operations and workflow automation for data engineers. You know any more than you did before I said that? No, I don't either. But according to the Economic Times, Astronomer is valued between $1.2 and $1.3 billion. So his salary's got to be in the double-digit millions, or it used to be. It's not public. It's one thing to risk your job, but risk your family. You go into a place filled up with thousands of people, and it's not like they were just walking in and out together. I mean, they're wrapped up there. It's pretty obvious what was going on. And they're both old enough to have kids who are old enough to be watching the internet and seeing what's going on. This has turned into every meme. Ballparks have been mocking Byron all weekend. Fans caught on Kiss Cam have reenacted Byron and Cabot's reaction to being caught. Now, I'm not sharing these for laughs. I'm sharing them for how ridiculous these people have acted to turn themselves into a punchline. I'm doing it to make a point. In my book, We've Got Issues, How You Can Stand Strong for America's Soul and Sanity, I talk about marriage extensively as a cornerstone of humanity in American society. And so this begs the question, why do people do this? You've heard me say I focus on why people do what they do and don't do what they don't do. So I sat down and wrote down the reasons that I have seen people do this over the 45 years that I've been doing this. And number one is immaturity. There's just no real commitment. Number two, they don't think about the consequences, okay? They really don't. They don't think about, if this goes off the rails, what impact is this going to have on my spouse? If I have grown children and this were to go public, what's going to happen when my children go to school the next day, to middle school or high school? Now, why wouldn't they think about that? Because they're narcissistic, and narcissists only look at things through their point of view. Then you got things like personality disorders, like borderline personality, where they just can't stay in a relationship. Number three, they're thrill seekers. They really do want to take risk. It's exciting. It's a turn on. Number four, people that do this have really low self-esteem, and they're looking for validation from somebody else that'll pay attention to them. Five, they're sexually bored. So rather than work on themselves and create energy in their own relationship, they'll go find something new. And of course, it always puzzles me how people don't think about the fact that they'll do it with you, they'll do it to you. So you're next, but they don't think about that. Sometimes it's revenge. That's number six. They do it to get even with somebody. Number seven, sometimes they're just really sick people. Maybe they've not resolved some kind of childhood issue. Maybe they've been taught that all they have to offer is their bodies or sexuality. They're depressed, anxious, whatever. Or maybe number eight, they're just in an emotionally barren relationship. But there are better ways to handle that than to go do something stupid.
What is the most inspiring thing I ever said to you?
Don't be an idiot.
Marriage provides something unique and important. It provides connection and intimacy where you have a partner that you share things with that you don't do with anybody else. And I don't mean just the physical part of it. I mean the sharing, the life experiences, all that. And all of that's thrown up into jeopardy when you do something like this. Somebody you're proud of, they matter to you. And if there are children involved, you're just throwing them up into the wind as well. That just doesn't make any kind of sense if you weigh all of that. But the point is, you don't weigh all of that. Clearly, these people didn't weigh all of that, or they wouldn't have marched into a room with 20,000 people from their hometown where they set up. Maybe. I've heard that somebody tipped off the Kiss Cam person to zoom in on them. Don't know that that's true, but it's pretty random to pick these two people out. So maybe somebody thought, you know what? These people need to reap what they sow. But God forbid we start celebrating cheating. We're human. That's why God allows for divorce in the Bible. But it's something that's taken very seriously, and I think that we do that too quick in this country. We don't work at it. You don't quit just because you're not having fun. I really focus on not the two that were in the arena, but all the rest of them that were at home who are now humiliated by what took place. And for those of you at home, the wife and the husband and the kids, all I can say is the real story is it was not your fault. It had nothing to do with you. It had to do with the narcissism, the immaturity, the hedonistic aspects of those two flawed people. That's the real story. It had nothing to do with you. And I hope you hear that above everything else you're hearing.
Wherever you're getting the real story, make sure you subscribe and follow. I'll see you tomorrow.